Brian, it is good to see you again. For those of you who has been with us through this journey, I am Amos Tanuma. I am a customer service evangelist and one who has sat in many of your shoes as a contact center leader. I've got the man of the hour, Brian Kearney. Brian, if you wouldn't mind, quick intros and then catch us up for those who haven't been with us.
Brian Kearney, co-founder of Fifth Talent. We are going through these workshops for contact center leaders. There's a crisis in contact center management. That was workshop 1. Workshop 2 was the opportunity, which is meaningful work. Agents improve customer behavior and company profitability. Ultimately, the agent and the customer are not at odds. They actually want this human-to-human connection where they truly interact. When that happens, benefits not only the customer, benefits the agent, and it benefits the company. But as you kept on alluding to in the last workshop,
I'm an impatient man.
Why? What's wrong? What is wrong?
I would just add that I thought the last episode was nothing but goodness. The employee wants it, the service leader wants it, customer wants it, and we found what they want. We all want meaningful work. You gave voice to defining what that is, and you left us at this very junction. Then getting in the way of meaningful work is grind, and you did a 30-second overview in it. So I cannot wait. Without further ado, let's jump in and get us into what is in the way of us being in this place we all want to be.
Excellent. This thing we call grind. The definition of grind interacts with the definition of meaningful work. Meaningful work is I authentically want to serve somebody in my work.
Right.
And grind is when something is preventing me from authentically serving someone at work.
Okay.
One of my classic stories that isn't mine, it is my good friend Ted's. He was hijacking with an agent. The agent has a customer come on and say, I have called multiple times. No one has been able to help me. I still have this problem and I'm calling again. The agent responds with, I think I understand why you've had to call in so many times. This is a little bit tricky and I'm going to have to probably put you on hold a couple of times, talk to some people. I'm going to do my best to help you solve this and just be patient with me. And they're like, okay. The agent did put the person on hold several times to talk to different people to try and get things solved. The agent finally comes back and says, you're not going to have to contact us anymore because I solved your problem. And the reaction of the customer was like, wow, thank you. And thank you. You're the one who did this for me. You solved my problem. Thank you. You've made my day. The call ends. And the supervisor comes over and says, what have I told you about putting people on hold? And you put them on hold 3 times and the call is too long. I'm going to fail you on that call and you need to get better.
Lovely. I know this story very well.
All of a sudden it's like deflated.
Yeah.
And that was a meaningful moment with that customer because they did it. It was human to human. It wasn't some process that just solved it.
Yep.
But that was between 2 human beings and it was meaningful. And unfortunately, then it was just crushed. So where we came up with this concept of grind is going to sound more basic than probably I should make it, but we started to realize if 2 humans, the agent and the customer, interact, and the agent truly wants to help the customer, why doesn't it happen? What goes wrong in all of that? We said, when you put yourself in the agent's shoes, it's, I want to help that customer, but there's a third entity, and this is the company. And more specifically, the supervisor.
Management. Yeah.
And they say, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do, say this. It's got to be within this time. We have all of these metrics that we're doing. It's check the box on QA. It's all of these things that prevent them from being themselves, being human. And when the customer and the company are not in alignment, the agent's in the middle, and we say, wow, what a grind that is for them to be in the middle.
Grind now makes sense. Well, double click into this a little bit. What are these things for those who might not be initiated, right? I don't want to assume people have spent decades in there. Like, elaborate a little bit more. What are the things that stands between the customer and the agent?
The supervisor. And it's how the supervisor manages. Another great agent focus group question that you take to the supervisor focus group is, okay, agent, what do you think your supervisor wants you to focus on? And they're like, not to make a mistake, not to show up on some report.
Yep.
And you ask the supervisor, what do you want the agent to think? And it's, oh, to be excited and ready to help customers. The customer is so important and their job's so important. That's not what they think.
No.
And when you start realizing how all of the things we do to manage contact centers, it's mostly punitive. And also, it's dehumanizing. It's about the process, the script. You got to do this, this, this. You're out of compliance. You fail. You're out. And it's like, wait. Where's the customer in this? And one of my favorite quotes, the agent said, I don't need no stinking fruit basket. Here's a fruit basket. Thanks for working here. What they do is they yell at me pretty much all day about the very few interactions I had that didn't go the way they wanted. And that's all they talk to me about. It's like, why couldn't I just be thanked occasionally for all of the customers I really help? Because that's why I do this. And that's what they say they want. When you think about what grind an employee or an agent face in trying to help a customer, number one is how they're managed. And then they say, you know what, doing it this way, I can't truly help the customer. They don't feel like they're prepared or they know what to do, and they have all of these things going on. So another is just having the right information, having the training they need. And sometimes it's the systems. They don't have all the information they need, or it's difficult to manage through to actually solve problems. And so we've created a lot of complexity where sometimes it's probably not needed. And there's another quote for you, if you want to read that one and kind of give me your response.
Poor management is at the top of the list of meaning destroyers. Ouch. Ouch. This quote and everything you've just said sounds like the job descriptions of leaders. It's like literally the job is what you are coming after here. Like your job is you wake up every morning and you monitor calls, you give them the rules of what you can't do. You've got your metrics, give people pizzas. Like, it's the whole job. Am I missing something here?
Well, it's a command and control management style that is predominantly in contact centers rather than a one-to-one development approach. Every organization needs a level of really both.
Right.
But if all you're really focused on and you're leading with is command and control, you're losing the people. And people, as we said, make the difference with the customer and the profitability and everything else in your company.
That's where it all starts and ends. So let's move forward. Can you go a little bit into the details of what you're describing? Because it's starting to sound like their day job. It sounds, and you're making it sound bad.
We'll use some examples here. As you see the agent in the middle and all of these other things, like call center metrics, monitoring, there's been a mismanagement of good innovation. All of these things are actually good.
Yeah.
And however, when they're mismanaged, it starts to dehumanize the customer service experience. For example, contact center metrics, it's great. We have to measure so many things.
Of course.
And money is really on the line in these measurements. And then if you're going to outsource, you have the contracts, you have to measure these things. But it starts to become grind when the measurement is more important than the customer as a human. I have average handle time, and agents don't like being rushed, especially if it inhibits their ability to really have that human-to-human connection. And then this thing like monitoring.
Yep.
Remember the pandemic and everybody goes home and it's like, oh, we can't monitor them as much. Well, let's monitor them even more and monitor everything they do. Yep. So that they're on camera and being recorded the whole time they're locked in.
Your bathroom time, everything, let's monitor it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That didn't work so well.
No.
People don't like everybody looking over their shoulder. QA, scripting, good ideas, and they're mostly for recommendations. And there's things that you have to have for compliance.
Correct.
But if you have a checklist mentality, it impedes the interaction because it's all about the checklist. I have to say this, do this. Then it gets into Six Sigma process improvement. How often do you hear supervisor say, just follow the process, just follow the process? Sometimes the process doesn't lead me to the solution, or if it's all about the process, I sound like a robot.
Right.
Another challenge, gamification. Gamification is great in training. But if you start to make the agent's job about gamification, it's insulting, really.
Right.
If you took somebody else's job, like an ICU nurse, and said, hey, it's all about gamification and getting rewards for things you do. And it's so insulting. They're saving people's lives or helping people and families deal with these tragedies. And then one of my favorite, customer effort.
I was waiting patiently till we get to this one because you're going to make it all enemies here, but go on.
Once again, it's a good thing. All of these are good things inherently. It is a good measure. It does impact somebody's overall satisfaction, without a doubt. Customers don't want to put in more effort than they actually need to. However, this idea of effort has been taken pretty far, and it was stop delighting your customers as part of this customer effort movement. This was an article that swept through the industry in 2010.
It did. It did.
It was this whole fad of you don't need to delight your customers anymore because it doesn't make a difference regarding their loyalty, in a sense, their behavior. Just make it quick and easy and you'll be fine. That means you can make things cheaper. I don't know if that was the initial intent. It was a good sales pitch by the customer effort folks, but I think executives turned that into, we don't have to worry about the effectiveness of customer service because it doesn't make a difference in retention.
Yeah. And again, just to do a little recap, because I think you've said a lot of monumental things that people like me and others who are listening to this or watching this will realize it's huge. You just said the prior slide was the entire job descriptions of most contact center supervisors. Like, this is literally why they're hired. And you said in so many words, well, that's the thing that's causing the grind. This is what is preventing meaningful work.
Yeah.
And then you ended with customer effort score, which, by the way, to your point, you're exactly right. We drew a line in the sand, and it was in 2010, and Dixon and others wrote that book. And it became not only should we not try and delight has no ROI whatsoever. You need to get in, get out. Every experience needs to be, I describe it as a 7-Eleven experience.
Yeah.
Get in, grab the thing, get out. It didn't matter if you were like me. I was at the time in 2010, I was running primarily delivering gifts to people at Mother's Day and flowers and all that. Like my whole business was delight, but we too got on this train.
Wow, there might be a
And
human side to that kind of service.
right. What is wrong here with this approach? What did we miss over these 14 years or so?
What's interesting is the positioning of what does it mean to delight?
Yeah.
Their definition was basically giving people refunds or giving people money. That's not a good definition.
No. No.
And the impact of money is less significant than
That's right.
actually how people are treated.
That's right.
The Rage survey by our friends have shown that people want a human to apologize, to try and make things right in a trust-filled manner, which, once again, AI can't do. And to just speed through it is not what they're looking for, or to get just the refund. The other piece is they say customer service does not impact customer retention, which they then immediately, and it's like one or two sentences later, say, oh, but low effort during customer service increases customer retention.
Right.
You can't have it both ways. You just said something in customer service does make a difference. The last thing is, do you really want to say to your service organization, stop delighting your customers? Stop it.
I think in hindsight, this is now so obvious that we took this thing, and if you had spent any amount of time putting it through these lens, it'll just be obvious that a business, it's about people, helping people, make it as sterile as possible, get in, get out, efficiency, speed. That's all that matters. Seems quite silly.
And it's a good thing that got taken to an extreme.
I agree. I'm tracking with you on this piece. I then want to turn back again to who's doing this.
So back to the executives. And if you remember our first workshop, we talked about the executives. 40% believe you don't have customer service influencing retention. Contact center executives, 98% of them believe it does.
Of course.
And 99% of customers believe it does.
Yeah.
So the problem is this executive. Just make this as low cost as possible. One of the things I'd like to do is just have a little bit of fun. What if an executive was treated like an agent? Do you think they would start to understand why this doesn't really work? For example, imagine the executive getting consultation and we really want to improve the efficiency and the performance of your job because you're really important to us. So we're going to monitor you 100%. Everything you do, all emails, you'll be video monitored, audio monitored, because that's going to help.
Yeah. Look at your screens, every word you say. We'll monitor it, we'll score it.
We're also going to time you in your activities.
Yeah.
Because we believe your activities are taking too long.
Yep.
When you're going into meetings, we now have figured out what we believe is the best things to say and do in meetings. Therefore, we're going to give you a script and you need to take care of those scripts. And if you don't do it, you're going to be in trouble because you're not following the process. When you're dealing with other people in the company, the employees of the company, the other management, they just want low effort. They just want it quick, convenient, easy. So we are going to measure your interactions with people because they really don't want to work with you.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, especially if you don't comply, we think AI can actually do your job.
That's right.
And do your job better because they can comply to everything.
Yeah. Not one executive on earth will sign up for this. Zero.
Correct.
Zero. And that should tell you all you need. And when you say it this way, I love how you framed it. I'm going to use that as well, is just makes the whole thing sound silly. Like, you're like, why are we doing this? And then if you also then understand what the job is, the entire job is about being the face, voice, whatever of a company to emotionally connect with paying customers. The end. So if you get that, the whole thing sounds silly. So it's bringing me back to, this sounds like a leadership failure, like, because it's looking so obvious. How did we get here?
We talked to so many contact center leaders in the industry and starting to see patterns and identifying where the challenges are. For the agent, number one source of grind is the supervisor. For the contact center leader, the number one source of grind are executives. We say the contact center leader has to battle the 4 horsemen of the leadership apocalypse. You can read number 1 for me, and we'll take each one in turn here.
Yeah. So the first one's the leadership paradox, right? It says when leaders prioritize profitability over people, profitability actually decreases because their approach reduces both employee and customer loyalty. I think this is the one that's going to smack people in the face, because service has been on this train for a long time, right? Yeah. Profitability, efficiency, there's all kind of euphemistic words around bottom line. The people are kind of in the way. I remember an article way back, customer service would be great. I wrote it, if you just eliminated all the humans. And the whole force has been, how do we prevent 2 humans from ever communicating with each other? Because it's more profitable. And when they do, how can we make this communications as short as possible, because this impacts the bottom line? So this is the one that is the biggest. People will quibble with, I'm not prioritizing profitability over people, but the actions speak for themselves. You know, we just laid it all out. This is the one I think will smack people over the head the most.
Let's get your reaction to number 2.
The leadership conundrum. Problems caused by leaders are really fixed by the leaders who caused them. This one depresses me a little bit, because no changes. It's pushing a rock up a hill potentially, but I know you've already been on this journey and you've already solved it. So we'll hear more of that as we go on. The third one, the leadership challenge. Leadership does not know how to effectively take care of employees and customers as people. If they don't figure it out, it'll lead to their own termination. I would love for you to elaborate on this, because you're now at a place of skill, is what it reads like to me.
Correct. Because profitability depends on customer behavior, and customers are emotional, not rational. What makes that emotional connection are the employees, the agents from the company. Therefore, how are we taking care of our people so that they feel supported, they want to work here, and they're good at interacting with the customers? It is this human value chain, right, that is critical to profitability.
I get it, but it's so counter. Like there's an unlearning.
Yes, because you want to manage my spreadsheet.
Correct. There's MBAs around the world in corporate America. There's an unlearning. I think that will cause great discomfort to the status quo, because the status quo is very much how many widgets, how many kinds of things, and to an nth degree there. Last one, the leadership lemons. Our executive leadership follows the industry and is highly resistant to change. In addition, these leaders demand that others follow their lead, making it very difficult for contact center leaders to rehumanize customer service. Amen, amen, amen. It's a self-reinforcing loop, to the point that anytime I write or I say something about this industry, I do a check to see what LinkedIn propeller heads are saying. And if it starts to sound the same, I start to question myself, because boy, so I very much connect to this, and executives love their benchmark. Not only in their own deal, there is this kind of reflexive, what is everybody doing?
I know we're being pretty hard on executives. They're under a lot of pressure, very difficult to be responsible for all of those people, all of the profitability. I don't believe executives are bad people.
Of course not. No.
It's that number 3. They just don't know what to do differently. to take care of people. Once I get profitable and I get everything going and everything's good, then I can take care of the people. Actually, if you're taking care of the people in this human value chain, you are going to be profitable. And that is the good news that we're really trying to talk about here.
Can you double click into the challenge? Because we're going to get to the solution next, but I want to make sure people don't underestimate what we're up against here.
Yeah. One of the things that we published a couple of years ago was a report called the Leadership Challenge. We didn't anticipate that that's what it was going to be, but that's what we heard from contact center leaders. What we heard was there's a people problem and there's this great resignation. We heard, as you see in the red there, it'll go back to the way it was. We need more information. We need consensus among everybody before we do anything. Some executives were saying, we don't want employees anyway. This is a good thing.
Yeah.
Others, technology is going to solve the problem. Unfortunately, that was 96% of what contact center leaders were experiencing from their executives.
Excellent.
So pretty rough. But there was a bright side. Those that did turn the corner were doing well, better than, pre-COVID. Things have changed. The workforce in this Gen Z is different. The pandemic changed some things. So we need to figure out what drives the employee and their experience. Many of them figured out we should experiment. Why do everything as a big company initiative where ultimately nothing gets done? Years later, you still have the problem, and the employees you had at the start of that are even different employees because of the high turnover.
Yeah.
So they experimented and allowed different groups to do different things and say what worked. And what they typically found what worked was how they manage those people. And working with the frontline managers was actually the biggest key. So that is the good news.
Beautiful. We are getting close to how this actually turns the corner. Because Brian, you've been teasing a lot of hope.
Yeah,
so
and before I go to the hope, I have to bring up one more major challenge.
Yep.
The executives are a challenge, but what we also found out is a contact center leaders team is highly resistant to change.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, because that's their whole life. They're burned out. They're all, yes, if you're listening to this and you're on you know exactly what he's saying. No, please. No, not another initiative. Please.
Yes, we're already underwater, not another initiative. If you want your strategic plan implemented, don't rock the boat. There's also all these other cross-functional groups that get involved, HR, IT, marketing, and all of that. And they play a role. They don't want to change. Also, people are afraid to look bad.
Yeah.
And because you're in an environment of high stress and fear, I might lose my job. We have heard, especially from the training group, they really don't want to change. No, we're doing everything great.
It's understandable. We both can empathize with why they're
there. That brings us to the end of the challenge. But the good news is coming, and that's in our next workshop called The Solution. I'll give a preview. It's so hard for organizations to change. It's hard for the executives. It's hard for the contact center leader teams. However, we have found that agents and supervisors, it's not that difficult. So that's good news. How do you do this? The biggest things you should do to create change is not try and get everybody involved and these huge things where everybody has to buy in. It doesn't go anywhere. I can tell you it does not go anywhere. What you do is you experiment. Because if you experiment with a small group and say, yeah, everybody just let me experiment, it's amazing because if the experiment works, what do people do? Oh, yeah, I'm on board with that.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm the sponsor for that. And that is this change approach. And I'll lead you more into this idea of the Great Contact Center Challenge.
Beautiful. Brian, this has been great. We will see you all in part 4. I cannot wait.